Hello lovely people, so today I thought I would do a video sort of revolving around foundation, and I'm wanting to do like a 3-part series. This video, which is pretty much how to buy a foundation at like a makeup counter where you've got someone else sort of colour matching a foundation for you, how to buy it at a drugstore when you don't have that assistance, and then also how to apply foundations using different techniques as well. So sponges, brushes, your fingers, etc. I sort of found that by working at a makeup store, I've seen how hard it is for people to find a foundation because they don't necessarily know the terminology. A lot of the time people don't actually know what they want, or they don't know how to communicate what they want to the other person that's matching their foundation. I'm gonna get stuck into how to buy a foundation at a makeup counter, I guess. So generally when I am matching someone's foundation, there are 3 questions, or well, 4 questions that I will ask them. The first is, do you have any allergies or sensitivity? That's definitely something you want to let the person know before they start recommending any products, because obviously if you do have quite sensitive skin, maybe some products aren't going to be the best for you, or if you do have particular allergy to something, then you want to make sure that's not going to be in the foundation. So if that is an issue for you, make sure you let them know, just because sometimes people forget to ask, but it's definitely a really important question that the person matching your makeup kind of needs to know about. The next question is generally, what is your skin like? So if someone says, what's your skin like, and you're like, what does she mean? Generally what they're asking is, do you have a normal skin type? Is your skin oily? Is your skin dry? Is your skin combination? If you don't know what it is, ask them. Just say, I'm not sure. Get them to sort of see what kind of skin type you are. Hopefully they'll ask you a few questions, but generally you'll kind of know what your skin's like. So a lot of people will find that they might be combination, where they tend to get a bit of an oily T-zone and maybe a little bit dry in the cheek area, or their cheeks are quite normal. If you have a dry skin type, you'll probably know that you have a dry skin type. You might have little flaky or sort of dry patches. You'll feel that your skin's quite tight. If you have a really oily skin type, you'll definitely know. Yeah, you'll be producing a lot of sort of oil all over the face rather than just in the T-zone. And if you're not really quite sure, you're not overly oily, you're not overly dry, you're probably a normal skin type. So they're sort of the 4, so normal, oily, combination and dry. They're kind of the 4 skin types that you'll have, and you want to make sure that you're going to get a foundation that's going to accommodate for your skin type, because generally, for example, if you have a dry skin type, you're not going to want something that has a really matte finish, and I'll get onto what that means as well in a second, but some kind of foundation finishes, which I'll talk about, won't necessarily go with different skin types. So hopefully I'm making a bit of sense here, but they're generally the first 2 questions that you'll get asked. Do you have any allergies or sensitivities? And what's your skin like? The third question that you'll probably get asked is, what kind of coverage do you want to go for? And if you're like, what does coverage mean? Because I remember going into MAC when I was probably about 16 or 17, and I was probably would have been about 17, getting my makeup done for my year 11 formal, and she was like, oh, what kind of coverage do you want to go for? And I had no idea what she was going on about or what she was talking about, and I felt too stupid and too embarrassed to ask her, so I just said, oh, I don't mind, when I knew what I wanted, I just didn't know how to communicate that to her. So coverage pretty much means the amount of makeup you kind of want on your face. And that's a really, really bad description, but it's the easiest way to describe it. So there's generally 3 kind of coverages that you can have. So you can have a sheer coverage, which is where it's just a little bit of makeup. So if you have freckles, you'll still be able to see the freckles underneath the skin. If you have a few blemishes, you'll probably still be able to see the blemishes, but it'll even out the skin tone. So it's just a little bit of makeup. That's what a sheer coverage is. And then you've got a medium coverage, which is just a step up from sheer. So it's going to help to even out the skin tone, but it's not going to be really quite heavy on the face. Yeah, it'll even everything out. You still might be able to see a few freckles if you have freckles, but most people like to go for a medium coverage, just because it's kind of in between. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, it's that nice in between. And then you've got the full, which is where you have quite a bit of foundation on your face. In terms of actual foundations that have a full coverage, like think of your Estee Lauder Double Wear, your Revlon Color Stay, and it's really going to cover the skin. So it means that if you have freckles, you probably won't be able to see the freckles. If you have blemishes, it's going to get rid of any of that colour. One thing I do want to get across is full coverage does not mean cakey. I think a lot of people get that confused as well. Find that cakey is just when you've either got too much foundation on and too much powder, and it just looks powdery on the skin, which you definitely don't want. But a full coverage does not equal cakey, so I just want to get that straight. They're sort of the different coverages that you can have. So sheer, which is just a little bit of foundation, so it's just going to sort of even out the skin tone a little bit, sort of like a tinted moisturiser. I guess that's what you call a sheer coverage. Then you've got a medium kind of coverage, which is sort of in between, so it's not really heavy, it's not really light. And then you've got your full coverage, which is going to completely even everything out on the skin. So then I guess the fourth question that you'll generally get asked is what kind of finish do you want to go for? And finish is the kind of, not so much texture, but the way your skin sort of looks. So you can have a dewy finish, which is where it looks quite shiny. So a dewy finish is great for a dry skin type, because what that's going to do is it's going to sort of put a little bit more moisture back into the skin. So generally you'll find that a foundation with a dewy finish it'll be an oil-based foundation. So it's going to give you that extra bit of radiance, a bit of glow under the makeup. You'll find that people with oily skin types won't like dewy finishes because they already have that shine and that glow to the skin, so that I don't really want to add anything else or any more kind of oil to the skin, I guess. A dewy finish doesn't mean oily, it just means it's a little bit more glowy, really good for a dry skin type. Then you've got the matte finish, which is, I don't know, I sort of find matte finishes hard to describe. It's sort of, if you put a powder over the top of a foundation and there's no shine to it, that's when it'll be a matte foundation. So there's no shine. It's just very sort of very even. You don't get a lot of shine coming through. Really good for an oily skin type, especially if the person with the oily skin type doesn't like that excess oil and they want to sort of mattify the skin. Then a matte finish to a foundation is a really good idea. Then you've got kind of that in between, which is what we call a satin finish. So it's not completely matte, it's not completely dewy, it's just that nice in between. So you'll have a little bit of glow, but you won't be shiny, and you won't be too sort of flat looking. So there'll still be a little bit of glow there, but just not too much. I don't know, once again, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's that in between, so not completely matte and not completely dewy. So a lot of people tend to go for a medium coverage with a satin finish just because it's that nice safe in between. If you have a normal skin type, you can pretty much wear anything. You can go for a dewy finish with a full coverage, you could go for a matte finish with a sheer coverage. It just depends on what you feel like. So they would be the 4 questions, or hopefully the 4 questions that you get asked when you go to get a foundation match at a makeup store or makeup counter. If they don't ask you that, let them know that that's what you want, because I think foundations are extremely important. They're one of those things that you're going to put on probably most mornings, and if you don't feel comfortable in the colour of the foundation or the finish or the coverage of the foundation, then you don't want to wear it and it's not an enjoyable experience. If those 4 things are fulfilled, you're going to walk out there with an amazing bottle of foundation that you're going to love and that's going to suit your skin and hopefully be the right colour. I'm going to talk about colours in another video, how to pick your own foundation when you don't have that assistance, because generally the person who is matching your foundation should know about the different colours and undertones of foundations and should be able to find you a match. It's more so communicating to them and letting them know what you want. So I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up because it lets me know that you really like this video and it also helps more people to see it as well. So hopefully you guys learned something from this and I will speak to you in my next one. Bye! Also, I'd just like to point out, how clean is my window? Can I just say that? I cleaned that for you guys. This stuff, like, I wanted to eat it. Every time I put it on, I'm just like, refrain.